Public speaking is a vital part of your ability to engage audiences and team members. But the reality is, I know that a lot of people are absolutely terrified of publicly speaking. And so as someone who speaks in front of crowds often enough and has done so many, many times, I wanted to just share with you a few tips and tricks, things that I do to help me feel more comfortable when I'm doing presentations. If you're new here, my name is Kevin Joseph, and on this channel, I put together videos that are meant to motivate you, inspire you, and help you achieve the best version of you. Let's dive in. The minute that I get invited to speak at a conference or to be doing some sort of presentation, the first thing I really want to understand is who the audience is going to be. I think that's probably the number one thing that's going to set you up for success, is understanding who's going to be in the room. You know, if I'm speaking to a group of university or college students and they're young in their field of study, and I come in and I'm speaking in really high technical, high executive lingo, it's very possible that I'm going to lose them because they don't quite understand some of the things that I'm talking about. And alternatively, you know, if I'm speaking to a room full of executives and I'm speaking with very basic terms or things that they've known a long, long time, it's definitely going to miss the mark. So you got to make sure that you understand who's in the room and make sure that you recognize that this presentation that you're doing is really for them. It's not so much for you. There's something you want them to get out of it. And so as you're putting the presentation together, think about what is it that I would want to know or I would want to be leaving the presentation with if somebody was giving this same presentation to me. Once you understand who's going to be in the room, that's going to help you with the rest of the things that we're going to talk about in a second as you're getting prepared to make this presentation. The second thing I would say that's important is to open with either a quote or some sort of a story. People love a good story, or they love a quote that's meaningful, something they can connect with. And it's important for a couple of reasons. The first one, for me as the presenter, opening up a conversation with a story or a quote, something that I'm very familiar with or very passionate about, gives me a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes to get comfortable on the stage or, up on the front of everyone that is there. And so by sharing this story and just opening my mouth, I'm giving myself a couple of seconds just to get into my rhythm, into my flow, and something that also for the audience can connect them to me, but then greater to the presentation that we're going to talk about as well. So I think it's important to share a little story, share a little anecdote, something that you're comfortable sharing. Maybe it's a joke. I've heard people talk about cracking a joke with the audience at the beginning just to sort of set the mood and get yourself in there. So open up with a good quote, good story, and you'll be good to go. The third thing is definitely it's got to be breath control. Take a deep breath. It's especially when you're nervous, it is so like us to just talk really fast and just be this ball of energy, not recognizing that's very off-putting to the audience. Take a deep breath, relax. There's no rush, you're not going anywhere. And if you can focus on your breath, not just at the beginning of the presentation, but as you go through it, you'll have the opportunity to control the speed and the pitch in which you're speaking with. And so if you find that maybe perhaps you're getting halfway through or you're a bit into your presentation and you're speaking really fast, take a second to pause and just bring that breath back into control. Take your time and speak forward. Number 4, I think, is practice, practice, practice. You can't do this enough. Get weird. Be in your room. I don't care if it's your basement, your bathroom, wherever it might be. But take the time, once your presentation is put together, practice speaking it. And I encourage people with this, don't just mumble it under your breath. Like the way that I'm talking to you right now is the way that I practice when I'm getting ready for a presentation. In fact, just last week, I was speaking at an industry conference, and no shame in the game, but if you can see this light that's over my shoulder, it's about the size of a microphone, a wireless mic that I expected to be using at this conference. And you better believe that last week before the presentation, I was walking around my basement with that light in my hand, pretending that it was a microphone, because it puts me in that mindset. It puts me in that same space it puts me into a relative environment that I'm going to be when I'm actually doing the presentation. And one thing I know that happens to a lot of people when they get really nervous and they're not used to holding a microphone is they will tend to hold the microphone down near their stomach, or they're talking over here, or it's over here instead of right in front of their mouth. And so find an object. I don't care if it's your deodorant can, if it's a light that you have, something, but practice, practice, practice. Number 5 is to, and this is a big one, because I think one of the things that makes people really, really nervous, especially coming towards the end of the presentation, is thinking about, what if people start to ask me questions? What am I going to say? So there's a couple of tips I have for you when it comes to this. Now, first of all, you need to anticipate some of the questions that they're going to ask. If you're doing a presentation on stocks or a presentation on plants or whatever it is, think about you being in the audience and what questions you might ask. And if you can anticipate the types of things that people might ask about your presentation, you can have some time before you actually start speaking to think about, what would I say if that question gets asked? So you don't feel like you're just put on the spot right then and there. The other thing I would say is pause is king. You know, a lot of times we feel like when someone asks us a question, we have to give an answer right away. And especially if we don't have time to think, we start just fumbling with our words and we're just saying whatever we're saying. But here's something you can try. So when someone asks a question, it's okay to just pause, like I just did, and think about the question that's asked and then give a response. Pausing sometimes also adds an air of deep thinking about what it is you want to say and convey to the question that is asked. The other thing that you could try, because I know it's happened to me a few times, where someone asks a question that maybe you just really didn't think of and you don't know how to answer it. And sometimes, instead of just saying, I don't know what to say, you can say something like, that's a really good question. I need a few minutes to really think about that. Can I get back to you at the end of the presentation? There's a lot of different ways that you can try these things that will help you to kind of get out of those awkward moments, if you will. And then lastly, authenticity rules the show all the time. Remember that people are here to hear you speak. And what they don't want to do is hear you try to be somebody else. So be authentic, be yourself. And you know what? For some people, if that means telling a quirky joke at the beginning of the presentation or midway through the presentation, feel free to do that too. But be authentic is the only thing that I can really tell you that will help you to shine outside of everybody else and all the things that you think are going to go wrong, but they're not. That's all the tips I have for you today, folks. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, please subscribe to the channel. It's free and it helps the channel get recognized by other people. Until the next time, talk to you later.